Today I'm going to be walking along yet another beautiful waterfront area here by the bay. We're going to walk along some condos here because obviously condos are going to be the theme of this video. And thank you, Austin, for sending me this story, because this is something that I have been covering on and off when there's something significant to talk about. And boy, do we have a lot to unpack today, guys, because when it comes to condos and condo terminations, there's a lot of problems happening right now in Florida with this. And maybe this isn't so much of a problem with the condos that you're going to see that we're going to be walking around here, but it could be in the future, because eventually every building gets old, right? And eventually some developer is going to eyeball that as an opportunity. So nobody is going to be safe from this, indefinitely. But if you're in a newer building, for example, it's something that you're not going to have to worry about for a very long time. And these condo buyouts and involuntary terminations, if you will, are really more of a problem for older buildings, and particularly in Florida, because this is kind of a hot spot of where this is happening. Now, the most recent story with this is a condo in downtown Miami. Basically, the building was mostly bought out by a developer, and there's a few remaining holdouts and they don't want to move. But now that the developer has officially terminated the condo association and taken full control of the building, the remaining residents, even though they technically own their units, are going to be forced to leave. And how insane is that? Now, these remaining residents actually filed a lawsuit saying that the developer, who's called Two Roads Development, manipulated and bullied them and deceived them and pressured them into selling their units to the developer, which can definitely happen. I've seen instances of this, and that is probably not a lie. I doubt that they're just making this up, because they'll send you all sorts of letters saying how the building has, millions of dollars in deferred maintenance, and if you guys don't fix all this now, the place is going to be worthless. No one's going to be able to afford all the increases that are coming, blah, 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 blah. And next thing you know, more and more people start caving in to their buyout offers because they're scared, right? They're like thinking, well, I need to take this now while it's available before my maintenance fee triples because of all the expenses that we have going on in here. Even in their letter, they said something to that too. And they said, as you know, the building is in need of significant deferred maintenance, which precedes TRD Biscayne LLC's completed acquisition of the property in December 2022. About 184 units at the property have been successfully vacated, with the exception of 6 remaining units remaining as unlawful inhabitants of the property. Just to be clear, this is perfectly legal for these developers to do this. They're not breaking the law, because in Florida, if any one entity, it doesn't even have to be a developer, it can be a single person if you're rich enough, right? You could buy up 80% of the building, and once you own 80%, you have enough authority to basically terminate the condo association and force everybody else out, if you will. And that's exactly what TRD is doing here. Here's the biggest problem with this most recent condo termination. The developer, TRD, is only offering these remaining holdouts, these 6 remaining people, about $400,000, guys. And other units there have been paid way more for their units. In fact, I even pulled the tax roll for you guys off my MLS software so we can take a look of just how much more money people got. It's pretty astounding. Check this out. You have people that got anywhere between 1.5 million, you have 723,000, you have 900,000, you have 690,000, 1,275,000, lots of 690,000, one little over $1 million, couple over $1 million actually, another one 1.275, and so on and so forth. You guys can see as the list goes on here just how much people receive for these units, and now these developers are pretty much squeezing these people out and saying, yeah, we're only going to give you 400 grand, which is criminal, and they should be sued for this. And hopefully these people that are being forced out are going to be able to recover this money and get the remaining difference from them, because $400,000, guys, is not even close to what the units are worth. Now obviously people get different amounts because depending on the unit size and the view and all of this, it depends, right? Just like the regular resale market. But when the average price that people are getting were anywhere between $700,000 to $1.5 million, and they're offering them $400,000, that's a slap in the face, and it's wrong. Because to me, at least if you're going to be kicking people out of their homes, you should send them away with a sweet deal, you know, like at least soften the blow, guys, because these people were thinking they were going to die in this place and never have to move. That ends up not being the case, and unfortunately, you know, things like this happen. And of course, I'm not giving anybody legal advice or investment advice on this, but it seems like the lesson of the story is here, if you feel like you could be facing a condo buyout situation, then probably the best thing to do is to get out early, guys, because it seems like the longer you hold out, the more problems you're just going to create for yourself, and you could end up like these people, basically being offered half of what other people got and being in like this take it or leave it scenario. Otherwise, you're going to be faced to litigate it and waste more of your time and your life and effort, you know, fighting this in court, which just isn't worth it. Now, as a current condo owner, I kind of have mixed feelings about this, because on the one hand, if a building is in big trouble in terms of the severe amount of repairs that need to be done in order to bring it up to standard, and you know, we're going to be facing these new condo laws starting in 2025, they all need to have full reserves, and you're operating on a shoestring budget right now, I would say one of these buyout deals is a godsend at this point, and really a blessing that you get to walk away and a developer is going to come in and just take it from you for probably a pretty good deal. You know, getting anywhere between $700,000 to $1.5 million for most of these people probably was life-changing money for them, and I'm willing to bet most of them paid less than that for the unit. So they're coming out ahead. At the same time, you know, it kind of puts people in a vulnerable position where you buy real estate and you think, hey, I'm going to live in this place forever, I'm going to die here, and that turns out to be not the case because enough of your neighbors decided to sell. So I think really a big lesson and takeaway from this is, if you're going to move into any sort of condo, whether it's a place like this that you guys see here, doesn't matter the style of the building. You know, this one happened to be a high rise, but something like this could happen at a place like this too, where you have basically like townhouse style condos, right? Doesn't really matter the style of the development. The idea here is that you are kind of forced to go along with what the majority of your neighbors want to do. And that just doesn't apply to buyouts, that applies to everything when it comes to condo life, you know? They want to change the color of the building and most people vote yes. Doesn't matter if you don't want it. It's gonna happen and you're gonna pay. People want to change the furniture in the lobby or get new gym equipment. Oh, I don't use that, I don't use the lobby, I don't use the gym. Doesn't matter, guys. If most people want it, people on the board decide yes, and the majority of the members of the condo vote yes, it's gonna happen. So it's kind of like you need to understand these are the pitfalls of moving into any sort of HOA community. Maybe not when it comes to houses, but definitely condominiums. If you're moving into a condominium association, okay, because it's going to be different than a homeowners association. It's not quite the same. So if you're moving into a condominium association, you are at risk of things like this happening. So just keep that in mind if you're somebody who's interested in buying a condo, and it doesn't even have to be in Florida. Florida is the poster child for these problems right now, but really this could happen anywhere. And really it doesn't end there, because since I have made several videos about this, I covered another story where there's a building right down the street from me in my neighborhood was bought out and is being redeveloped. And it was rumored that the building right next to it would also be bought out and redeveloped, probably because it's right next to the first one that they were trying to take down, and it's so close to it, guys, that if they implode the building, there could be some serious consequences to the one next door to it because it's just so close. So that could be the reason why they're doing this. I don't know. But this place has actually been offered buyouts for the past 2 years or so, and now it's tangled up in litigation for a lot of the same reasons that we just talked about. You had 28 unit owners at this building called the Amethyst. There's 120 units there. They received buyout offers, okay? And they offered them $750,000 per unit, and they had to close by the middle of December in order for this to be accepted, essentially. They didn't say yes, they didn't say no, it was just an offer. It's a buyout offer. And this was all last year, by the way. Since it all just kind of sat there and the owners didn't do anything, the developer canceled their offer. Now, this developer, called MAST, M-A-S-T is the name of the company, is pretty much using the same tactics to try and get people to say yes to these buyout offers as the previous one. They said, you know, the building's going to be facing a lot of assessments coming up. There's going to be a lot of repair costs that are going to cost you guys a ton of money. You know, why don't you just take our buyout offers? It's going to be easier for you and everybody wins, right? So now fast forward to today, MAST has 85 signed contracts with sellers, not including the 28 that were dropped previously from the previous offer. If all these deals go through, that would give them 70% of the building, which is pretty close to what they need to take over. And these offers range anywhere between $350,000 to $850,000. So you guys can see that they're not offering everybody the same amount, guys. Like, they are really trying to take advantage of people in certain situations here. And I know this building, it's a very small building. There's almost no difference between most of the units in terms of size and the view. Maybe small variations, right? Because it's a small building. But you're not talking life-changing differences in views and all of this from one unit to the next, even if it's close to the ocean and all of that, because of the way the building is set up. So it looks like it's probably just going to be a matter of time before this actually goes through and they take over this building as well. And then there's going to be 2 brand new high rises in Miami Beach. And that's just the way things are going now. But imagine being the people that got $350,000 versus somebody that got $850,000 for essentially the same unit, guys. Because if I remember right, all the units there are 1 bedrooms. There might be 2 bedrooms. I just can't remember. It's been many years since I've been there. But most of them are all basically the same layout and size for the most part. And if you found out that your neighbor got $800,000 and you only got $600,000, I'd be pretty pissed off. So that's why I think when you're facing one of these situations and a buyout offer actually does come, then I would say you have a number in mind as if you were selling it to anybody else. And also talk to your neighbors and see what they're being offered as well, and try to get the most you can out of these people, because even whatever they're paying you is going to be peanuts compared to what they're going to make when they redevelop it, and all the brand new units there cost $4 million starting price, because that's what they're doing. And to pay you 800 grand for one of them is nothing. And these guys are kind of getting away with murder, so you might as well, you know, take them for all they're worth if you face one of these buyout situations. I know I certainly would. And there is one other thing to be aware of with this. There was another condo buyout in Bell Harbor 2 years ago, and the building was called the Carlton Terrace. Other developers attempted the same buyout previously to this developer and had lost out. But eventually another one came in and they got their way. And one thing I will say with these condo buyouts, it seems like when developers have their eye on a certain piece of property, they're going to keep coming at you and coming at you, guys. It's just like the movie Jaws, right? Have you ever seen the movie Jaws? The shark always comes back, right? It goes out to sea, but it always comes back. So basically, if your building has been approached once before and it didn't work out, there's a high probability that they might get approached again. And, you know, it could be just a matter of time before it happens. It's the same thing when we see these developers try to always increase the density and the zoning of properties there so they can maximize what they can build on certain pieces of land. And every time it gets voted down in the ballot box, and then they lobby the local politicians, and then 2 to 4 years later, what do you know? The same measure's back on the ballot again, and they try to convince all the neighbors of why this is going to be a good thing and this and that, and then people are stupid, they vote for it, and lo and behold, what do we get? More traffic, more construction, more dust, higher price homes. Nobody gets anything out of that, because whoever these people are that are voting for it, I guarantee you 90% of them can't afford what's going to be built there. So it's really stupid when people vote yes for these things. So to me, the worst part out of all of it is that it seems like regular people just don't have a say-so anymore. You know, it doesn't matter if you own a condo or if you're a voter in an area where they're trying to build all these new buildings. Like, it doesn't really matter what you say. Yeah, technically you have a say because you can vote whether or not to have the new building built that's twice as tall as the other one and has twice as many units and still have the same size roads, same amount of parking spaces nearby, all that stuff. Or you can say, no, I don't want to sell my unit to the developer, but eventually people get pressured into doing it anyhow. And it's just a matter of time, guys, because money seems to speak louder than anything else, including the voice of voters and taxpayers. So keep that in mind as well. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention here in this video is following up on my video from yesterday, talking about how the investors are losing all this money. And I showed you guys specific examples of how different investors in this area are losing money on rents. They're losing money on reselling properties right now. And San Francisco is kind of ground zero for this right now. About 12.5% of people who are selling homes right now in San Francisco are losing money, guys. Like, they are selling it for less than they paid for the property. That is not good. You don't want to be a seller in places like San Francisco right now. And it's not just in San Francisco. This is happening in different pockets across the country. But San Francisco is the most notable example because it's one of the areas where people are leaving the most. It's one of the areas where home prices got way overheated the most. And now the correction is coming in the most. And so anybody who bought in the last couple of years that's trying to sell is losing. But it's not just there. You see it in other places in California. You're seeing it in markets like Seattle. You're seeing it in Boise, Idaho. It's happening to people in Phoenix. It's even happening to people in Florida as well. And I realize that a lot of these places I just mentioned are pandemic boom areas. This is where, you know, the buying spree and the prices kind of shot up the most in these areas, but it doesn't mean that it can't start happening in more regular markets as well. Am I saying this is going to happen in the Midwest where the average home price is, 180 grand? Probably not. But if you live in a mid-sized metro where home prices used to be 285 grand and now they're 500,000, yeah, I think this could be starting to happen to you as well. So this is what I would be starting to look out for in the near future. And all this info is from Redfin, by the way. It's not like things that I'm just making up. Redfin is reporting these investor losses. You have different markets in Florida, in Missouri, and Rhode Island, for example, where only 1% of sellers are taking a loss right now, but it's still people who are losing, guys. And the reason I want to bring this up is because so many people are touting how good the real estate market is right now, and that there's going to be no downturn from here, but yet people are losing money at the peak, when home prices are practically higher than ever. So how is that possible? How can we have a healthy market right now when people are losing money when home prices are near record highs? To explain that, it makes no sense, because in a healthy market, no one's selling at a loss, okay? People are making money. It means that you bought it for less and you're selling it for more, which I understand is still the vast majority of people out there who are selling today. But the fact that it's not happening to everyone is the red flag that I want to bring up, because people need to pay attention to the fact that this is happening right now, and it can spread very easily, guys. We're seeing all these businesses going through bankruptcies. We're seeing the Fed that's going to continue to keep interest rates higher for who knows how long, which is going to cause possibly more bank failures, possibly more bankruptcies, which is going to lead to more layoffs. And what does layoffs mean? It means unemployment goes up. And that's the only thing that is left for us to see for a huge amount of inventory to come to the housing market. And that's it. It's game over, guys. When that happens, prices are going to go through the floor. Now, I can't guarantee you that. Can never make guarantees about anything, but that's where I think things are headed with this current trajectory. And by the way, this investors losing money thing is not a new thing either, because I've covered this 6 to 8 months ago as well. And even a similar story was written by the same news agency back in March, talking about how many different investors across the country were losing money back then, guys. In fact, about 13.5% of homes that were sold by investors in March of this year were sold at a loss. less than what they paid for it. Now, if they would have waited a couple more months until like May or June, they might not have lost money. But nobody knew what was going to happen, including those investors. And then you might just say, well, why didn't they just hang on to it then, Michael? Well, the same reason that you don't know if it's a good time to buy. The same reason that people don't know if they should sell and rent right now, because nobody knows what the future is, including those investors who lost money. So their mentality was probably like, I might as well get out of this now while I can, because things might go down. And if that wasn't the mentality, it could have been just simply the math doesn't work. If you're a flipper and you're hanging onto a property that's bringing in no money while you're paying the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, the utilities, and everything that goes along with maintaining that house, then you need to sell. You can't afford to keep that property empty for months and months on end and still turn a profit. And sometimes it's better to just cut your losses while you're ahead and take a smaller loss than a much larger loss if you were to wait for somebody to come along and buy it at your hopeful price. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.